Well, welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge, everybody. I'm your host, Bill Whittle, for yet another enchanting evening of something. I don't know what the enchantment would be today. It's been a slow news week, actually. Just trying to make sure that all the buttons are pushed and all the rest of this jazz. It's tough being your own engineer, especially when you're not good at anything. Why is this Bill Whittle guy not moving? I got a still picture of this clown. Play. Come on. I don't know. I keep telling myself this is going to be the last week. And fortunately, this will be the last week. But it is, yeah, I'm just going to assume that it's working because my playback here is not happening at all. Which is good because we don't want to, we don't want to set any standards that we might have to live up to at some point in the future. Now, my playback's completely locked up. But who cares? I'm just going to put this little panel over here so I can see this. Yeah, okay, sweet. All right, excellent. So I hope everybody's doing well. Good to see you. Was it last week I was gone? I think it was. Double check. Yes, of course it was. My gosh, we had a good time, my beautiful wife and I. We really did. It's one of the best times ever, actually. We took the train out on Amtrak to Pismo Beach. I know what you're thinking, nothing but the finest for Mrs. Whittle. But it's a fun place, and I have to tell you, the train ride actually changed my life. Now, my wife, Natasha, has been all around the world, all around Europe. She's been to Egypt. She's been everywhere. It's a mixed blessing. It's tough sometimes to drive down the 405 freeway and have your wife tell you that the road is in worse condition than the streets in Istanbul or in Cairo. But anyway, that's the downside. The upside is she's been everywhere, and she said it was the most comfortable transportation she's ever experienced, and I thought so too. And it was so wonderful. That's 4 hours to Pismo Beach. It's 45 minutes in my airplane, which I'm selling, by the way. I'll get to that in a second. And about a 3.5 hour drive, 4.5 hours by train. So that train is not going very fast, but it goes right down the coastline, surf spray on the window, that kind of thing. And it is amazing. And on the way back, I had this idea because it had never, ever occurred to me, needless to say, I'd heard of these things. But on the way back, I decided we really wanted to take Amtrak to Chicago or New Orleans or something. Because it is so much more comfortable than an airplane. And just getting on it is so much more comfortable. None of this nonsense with TSA and, all the rest of it. There's so much room, and the seats go so far back. You got a sleeper car or something, that would be fantastic. And for those of you who wonder why train cars are so much more comfortable than airplane cabins, the answer is that the train doesn't have to fly. But other than that, it's fantastic. And in fact, it was so comfortable and it was so comfortable that was the first time I ever realized that this is not so much transportation as just a vacation. So I'm really thinking we might do it. Get a sleeper car, and they've got the big observation cars, and just kind of sit there and watch the world go by. And it also is different. I mean, needless to say, I like the view up there in the sky. But there's something about going through people's backyards, I mean, it's just like sitting in front of the greatest TV screens in the world and watching the world go by you as you go, but it has the added benefit of being real. By the way, that Amtrak, for those of you who are familiar with Southern California, you'll know that if you're going to go from Los Angeles out to Pismo Beach, you go through Santa Barbara, and then the 101 takes a turn and heads through Santa Maria, that kind of thing, and then goes into Pismo kind of from the inside. because the entire end of that peninsula belongs to Vandenberg Air Force Base, and I had never been there, ever. I'd never flown over that space. It's extremely restricted, and Vandenberg Air Force Base has got to be the size of Belgium. It's just astonishing how huge it is, and since it was all on the base, there was a solid 45 minutes of that trip inside the boundaries of Vandenberg, where it was essentially pristine California coastline where there were no development. There was a little stop there called Surf for Air Force personnel to hit the beach and stuff. But it is just incredibly beautiful, and it is huge. And every now and then, I mean, that's how big the base was. You're just traveling along, and there's a SpaceX hangar, and you go for another 10 minutes. There's a United Launch Alliance hangar, and there's something that looks like a very, very sophisticated radar station, and so on and so forth. And Sid says he's been on the beach there, and I envy you, Sid. That was one of the nicest, certainly the nicest looking beach I've ever seen in California. And it was just really cool. And it made me want to go, do one of the launches, because while you can't watch the launch from the base, having seen the base, it would be just great to watch from as far south as you could get on Pismo. Anyway, so we did that, and we had ourselves a real lovely time. We went bowling. Like I say, nothing but the finest for my beautiful wife. But she had gone bowling once or twice before with people who told her that she wasn't very good, and that's just, who does that, really? Ex-boyfriends do that. That's who. And with a little encouragement, she was really getting the hang of it. It was really fun. She got a strike before I did. So she's probably going to do to me in bowling what she did to me in shooting, which is basically outclass me immediately, and I'll have, I don't know, there'll be a couple things left I can still do. We just got from Merlin said, if you go to Pismo Beach, go to F. McClintock's Steakhouse, and we didn't, but we will next time. Anyway, so we went bowling, and she had a lot of fun doing that. We had a lot of fun doing everything. Had a lovely evening back at the hotel, and then the next day we went out on Pismo Dunes. For those of you who have seen those dunes, it's like being on the moon. It's just unbelievable, and it just goes on and on and on. And so instead of renting two individual little ATVs, we rented a two-seater. And I drove around out there, and then we found kind of a flat spot and switched seats, and Natasha started driving. And, at first just kind of timid, and I had this running bet going with myself, and I won. I knew that within 2 minutes by my watch, she was going to start gunning it. And sure enough, she surely did. Once she got the hang, by the way, this wasn't the first time she's driven on the dunes. This is really the first time she's driven, ever. Not ever, but, So, so she just got in there and rolled us around, and we had ourselves a fine old time. So it was a really great vacation, and a very, very lovely anniversary. It was just a beautiful place to be, and there you go. So that's why we missed last week. In other news, I am going to be selling my Long Easy. I almost said I'm sorry to say, but the fact is I haven't